Hi everyone, I'm Lochana Abekon, a student of Toyama Institute of Technology, and this is my colleague Jubin Bhatt.
Thank you, Rosna.
And today we are going to talk about climate change and infectious diseases associated with climate change. So I'm going to describe about first part in our presentation, and Jubin will continue the second part of our uh, presentation. Uh, so uh, Now we are going to see the topics of our presentation. Uh, before we are going before we are going to talk about climate change, we have to know what is climate change. So our first topic will be climate change, and second topic is infectious diseases and outbreaks associated with climate change, as well as areas most at risk.
Now, evidence that climate change contributes to increase the risk of infection will be discussed in my section, as well as some risk management strategy and some framework which could support the authorities for the assessing, managing, and for the treatment of potential outbreak will be discussed in my part. Now, Losna will continue with her part.
Thank you, Chupi. Now we are going to talk about our first topic, climate change. What is climate change? Climate change is a periodic modification of Earth's climate brought about as a result of changes in the atmosphere as well as interaction between the atmosphere and various other geologic, chemical, and biological and geographic factors within the Earth system. In simple words, climate change is any significant weather changes other than expected weather changes in a region in period of time. So now we are going to look at infectious diseases associated with climate change. Because of climate change, in infectious diseases, uh, there are three component will be essential for any infection. Most of infectious diseases, those are vector, uh, host, and environment. So, because of this climate change, uh, global temperature will be increased and sea levels will be increased and carbon dioxide level as well, and extreme weather changes can be happen. So because of that, uh, it leads to most of infections because of these changes in climate change. So it can lead to waterborne diseases, vector-borne diseases, foodborne diseases, as well as airborne diseases. So in this table, we are talking about some environmental changes as well as example diseases. So our first environmental changes is dams, canals, irrigations. Uh, because of flood, uh, because of increase in temperature, it can lead to flood, and because of flood, directly affect water quality impact. So um, it can lead to flood is provide a good environment to vectors transmission as well as reproduction. So it can easily lead to vector-borne diseases such as schistosomiasis, malaria, helminthiasis, and river blindness. And second topic is agriculture infestation. This also can happen malaria and Venezuelan hemorrhagic fever. And because of urbanization and urban crowding, because of population, it can lead to cholera outbreak and dengue outbreak as well. And deforestation and new habitation can lead to malaria and oropouche, and reforestation can lead to Lyme diseases. So, to conclude, because of this climate change, four impacts can be happen. Those are rising temperatures, more extreme weather changes, carbon dioxide level changes, and sea level increasing. So, because of rising temperature, it can uh, directly lead to impact to humans' health, like because of extreme heat, it can lead to health related heat related illnesses, and also extreme heat can especially lead to death because of dehydration as well as cardiovascular failures. And severe weather changes directly impact on mental health on humans. And because of extreme weather changes, air pollution can be happen. Because of that, it can lead to cardiovascular diseases, and as well as changes in vector ecology. It can directly affect to malaria, encephalitis, hantavirus, as well as Rift Valley fever. So when we are looking at rising sea levels, it can increase in allergens, and it can impact to water quality. So because of water quality impact, it can directly lead to cholera outbreaks and Campylobacter outbreaks, uh, like such as waterborne diseases. And because of allergens increasing, it can directly lead to respiratory allergies and asthma. So now we are going to look at the areas most at risk because of this climate change. So as we discussed before, because of increasing global temperature, it can directly lead to like glaciers starting to shrinking, and sea levels can be rising. Because of that, uh, it directly affect the coastal regions as well as small islands. So it can affect floods and droughts in these areas, and it directly leads to waterborne diseases as well as vector-borne diseases as well. So when because of this ice melting, the Arctic regions also can be affect because especially ecosystem. And because of rising temperature, Africa region and Asian megadeltas can be affected because from droughts and floods. Uh, Now we will talk about evidence that climate change contributes to increased risk at infections, both existing and emerging. So, according to Alistair et al. 2014, uh, there are three main components are essential for the most of infectious diseases, such as agent, host, and transmissible environment. According to the European Environment Agency, the global average surface temperature has increased 0.74 Celsius, and the global sea level is rising 1.8 millimeter per year since 1961, and the Arctic sea ice has been shrinking by 2.7% per decade. Moreover, mountain glaciers are contracting. Because of that, the ocean sea levels can be acidic, and extreme weather changes can be happen. So, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change predicted an average temperature rise of 1.5 to 5.8 Celsius across the globe, accompanied by increased extreme and anomalous weather events, including heat waves, floods, and droughts. So, when we are talking about infectious diseases, some pathogens are carried by vectors or required in intermediate hosts to complete their life cycle. So, appropriate climate and weather conditions are necessary for the survival, reproduction, distribution, and transmission of these disease pathogens, vectors, and hosts. Therefore, changes in climate or weather condition may directly impact infectious disease through affecting the pathogens, vectors, hosts, and their living environment, according to Wu et al. 2014. In this diagram, we it shows that how climate change affect in infectious diseases. As we discussed before, climate change because of climate change, temperature and precipitation and wind dust will be increased, and it will directly affect vector-borne disease, waterborne disease, foodborne disease, and airborne disease as well. So, uh, rest of the presentation will be continued by Jubin. Jubin,
Thank you very much, Lochna. In the second half, I'm going to discuss some of the